on a note, we evolve. Our websites are going to evolve. Things are going to change. Every time you're adding something new to your site, which happens often, all the time, right? But you want to work backwards always. So in branding, in web design, you're saying, what is my ultimate goal for this person that comes here? And then you're putting the pieces in place.
I am so excited to have my friend and the creative genius behind our Leadership Cafe brand with us today. Rochelle Serna is the founder of Beachy Keen Creative. It's a brand and web design studio that helps purpose-driven entrepreneurs create an online presence as powerful as their work. And I can attest, she is very good at it. So her intuitive templates and the way she designs and blends strategy and creativity, literally in my decades-long marketing career, is unlike any other I have worked with. So I am super excited to have her here today to talk about branding and web design and how to make sure they're clear, they're empowering, and easy to implement. So Rochelle, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have you.
Thank you. That was the sweetest introduction. Thank you so much. It's always an honor to work with you, and I love being able to share all this fun marketing, branding stuff with anybody who will listen, essentially. So this is great.
Well, a side note, I love the brand Beachy Keen Creative. And yes, Rochelle lives in Hawaii, which is amazing. But I think your brand practices exactly what you preach, which is great.
Thank you. It's funny because for all of the people, the entrepreneurs out there, that's one of the hardest things is to implement these things that we know that we should be doing, but we tend to put ourselves and our brands last in a way. And so this is a reminder not to do that, but it was a long time to get that message. So I'm so happy that it shows through because I've definitely been trying to prioritize really practicing what I preach in my own brand.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, right? So, since we're in the cafe, I've asked my guests to bring one of their favorite mugs and tell us what's your favorite bevy in a mug?
So I would say probably like it's so simple, but just like a lemon and honey tea. I love a lemon and honey tea. That's my favorite in the mornings or, you know,
Nice.
when you've got a little sore throat. I just love a lemon honey tea. So
It's nice. That's really healthy as well. Very healthy for you. It's good for your keeping your less alkaline and, you know, helps balance, and honey's a natural antibiotic, so that's a good one. Mine actually has sparkling water in it right now because it's afternoon, but I love chai tea. So if I'm drinking, it's usually chai tea, or if it's later in the day when I shouldn't have more caffeine, it's moot tea for me.
yeah, full disclosure, water's in here right now because that's what I was craving. But so
Not
my
quite
favorite.
late enough or early enough for a mimosa or wine in the mug, but I may or may not have ever had that in my mug ever.
Well, cheers to you
Mhm.
and to this
Clinks.
conversation.
Clinks to being in the cafe. Thanks for joining us. So, Rochelle has helped us with our brands for a long time, and we've kind of grown up together in our brands, if you will. I love that. As I mentioned in the intro, I feel like you are able to connect and bring brands to life in a way that is unlike anyone else I've worked with. And it's almost like in some cases, you've been able to tune into the essence of a brand that I couldn't quite get into words, which is just so amazing to be the client on that experience. I'm like, she said about my brand what I've been thinking and could not figure out how to formulate intelligent words around. I can formulate pages of words around stuff, but nothing succinct and so precise. And so I love that about the way you work. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about your view of what is a brand. We'll start with that general, and then how you approach branding and why that's so important for modern businesses. Some people pick a logo and set it and forget it, but there's so much more power to it, and you have shown me that.
Oh, thank you so much. This is the best. I love hearing the love. Okay. It's so sweet. I think the most important thing to remember about your brand that I think people, when you're thinking about your brand as a whole, is really taking this big idea of where you want to go and what you are here to do, your passion, your purpose, which to be fair is difficult from your view at times.
Right.
So I think the reason why, just like a little side note, reason why it can be easier for someone else to come in is because like I look at you and I'm like, I can easily see your talents. I can easily see your power. I can easily see your passion and your gifts. Like it's so clear. And so it's a lot easier for me to translate that. When it's our own gifts, it can be hard because it feels so natural or because growing up in a society where we're taught to like keep ourselves small and all sorts of things. But I think that really like focusing on what is your passion, what's your purpose. I mean, a lot of people want to start with a logo. They want to start with the colors. And those things are really fun and they're a huge part of branding. But you have to be able to tie them into what that purpose is, what your passions are, what you're really good at, so that when someone sees that, they feel something. Because everything is based on the feeling, right? Like how we can make someone feel, understand, and then also that clarity piece, right? So there's just this like dance that happens. But when we start with the heart of it, when we really understand our purpose, then it's easier to come and wrap back around. So I actually always suggest people sitting down and really writing out their gifts, their what makes them special, all of these things before they even look at like don't open Canva. Just don't do it until you understand that stuff first, the heart, and then you build around the heart and you design for that.
That's so good. Thank you for that. I love that explanation because it is true. It's so much easier to just start with an image, but I have found in my experience that that almost puts me in a box. 'Cause it's like I get this thing in my mind's eye that, "Oh, this is it," before I'm dressing something that doesn't have a soul yet, and the outfit may not match who that ends up being, and so I think it's really a great point to back away from the Canva.
Yeah. Just at least at the beginning.
Yeah. So talk to me about maybe when I see a lot of people who come to us and say, "Oh, we need a rebrand because my marketing's not working." And I'm not sure that a rebrand is always the right answer. So can you talk a little bit about maybe brands that already are established? When do you know it's the right time for a rebrand or a refresh or something?
Yeah, this is a great question and a huge topic because I think that there's like this balance and this dance that happens. You have to be able to fully understand where you're going. If you're putting a rebrand on as a band-aid, it's not going to fix the issue. There's usually deeper things. There's a lack of being able to, and messaging does go hand in hand with branding. But if you don't understand your messaging, if you're not communicating that well, then a new logo or new colors isn't going to help you better connect that. I have seen some cases where, like, the brand, everything's there and the branding just helps them get to that next level. But it almost has to be used as an accelerant, not as a band aid. And so I think that if we're really looking at, like, okay, something's got to be fixed here. Can I just like pour a bunch of money into this rebrand? Is it going to fix all my issues? Like, not if you're not really setting those foundations and starting from the bottom back again, where you're saying, like, okay, here's what's not working. Here's why it's not working. Or here's what's working really well. Let's lean into that and see if we can get some momentum because you want your brand to be able to put fuel on the fire and to be able to grow something. If just putting a pretty logo and colors onto something made it work, then we'd have a lot of very successful businesses right out the gate. It's a part, right? It's a part of this working whole. And that's what you're so good at working on is like we're looking at things in a holistic way when you're working with you because you're looking at all of the little components and branding really, as much as I love it, it is one part of that. And also the word branding it's extensive, right? Like it can cover a lot of ground, but a lot of people think of the visuals, visual identity branding.
Sure. And I know that you have a brand template that you've built that's a product that people can get. What kinds of things does that walk you through? Because to your point, more than a mark or a color. There's so much more to it.
Yeah. So I have a course that just walks people through what building the brand from the ground up can look like. And this is really about skill sets and tools and kind of combining it all together. But the first 3 modules are all about those foundations. It's all the stuff that people want to skip over. It's all the stuff that people don't want to talk about. But it's really doing market research. It's really doing like self, especially I work with a lot of personal brands and small agencies and consultancies, and it's about like looking at turning you know, looking in the mirror and saying like, what am I good at? What could I clean up a little bit? What can I who do I serve best? Where are the containers of what I'm really good at and what people are wanting and what I like doing? Because I think that people forget that there's like that 3-part thing to it. You could be really good at something that you don't like doing, and you will eventually stop. Like, I'm all in energetics and stuff, but you will stop like calling in that work if you don't enjoy it. And so, I think that there's a lot of that stuff that we have to dig through before we're building a brand around and calling in who we wanna call in and how the work that we wanna do and amplifying that. So the first couple modules are all about that. And then we just talk about the actual skill sets of how do you compile inspiration and market research. And I really take an approach of it's kind of like what you said, when you get this idea in your mind and then you go towards that without letting there be a cushion. Like we want to be able to be more open-minded. So when I'm talking about market research through my brand course, I'm talking about, yes, taking specifics from your market, but when we're looking at brand research, I'm actually asking people to look outside of their market. I want them to look at architecture. I want them to look in nature. I want them to look in beautiful meals. Like I want them to see and get inspiration from other places so we don't feel boxed in. So find out the hard stats of what your industry is doing. But when it comes to like inspiration for your brand and how you want to bring it to life, like search outside of that so that you're not boxed in and the sky's the limit and you actually are attracted to what is going to resonate with you and your people the most. Rather than like, well, everyone in my industry uses blue. I guess I should use blue. It's like, maybe. And there's some truth to like, there's some truth to staying familiar, but I think that what you have to do first is find out like who you really are. I mean, it's kind of like a spiritual journey, honestly. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I really think that when we're going through this, it's our business's journey of self-discovery. And I think it's really fun.
Yeah, I can agree more, and I know even when I have been in-house marketing for Fortune 40 companies, we went out of the industry to get inspiration, and truthfully, every time we were willing to go out of our own echo chamber, if you will, that is when the real things that had the deepest impact came to pass, because you get inspired. You see, "Oh my gosh, I had never thought about that for healthcare, or I never thought about that for nonprofit or whatever," and I feel like it's an approach we like to do in our agency anyway, where I have one frame of reference, and my opinion is one opinion. If you've heard it, you've heard one. But I don't have all the answers, and so I love bringing other voices and frames of reference and lived experiences to the table, because I feel like that is ultimately what makes us not only better brands, but better humans,
Yeah.
makes us better citizens in the world when we have an openness to things that aren't just homogenous, and I think that is a spiritual principle way beyond branding, but it's part of how, as a human, I wanna remain as well. I think there's just so much more beauty and so much more innovation and so much more impact that comes from openness than from my way, the blue way, or the highway.
Yeah. Yes. It's so true, and that's such a beautiful concept, and what I love that you bring to this marketing world is this idea of being purpose-driven and people first and being open and being willing to, like, break whatever these rules are for the greatest good of everyone that we're working for and with,
Yeah.
and I just think that, it's also and gonna go back to the same things over, but when you understand all of those foundations that I'm talking about, it's also a lot easier to be open. It's harder to be open when you don't even know the target, you know? And so it's easier to want to say, what is this person doing? Or especially when you're like starting your business or you're doing a rebrand, but you're still trying to like figure out the footing of what your positioning is and such. It's easier to go, well, they're doing it this way. And okay, maybe I should do that. And they're up here and that's where I want to be. And then also you could get stuck in comparison and all these things. So when you know your business's heartbeat more intimately, when you like understand that, it's way easier to be open because you understand what direction you're going.
Sure. And I feel like it's easier to course correct as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's too many options. And now we've like oozed outside the boundaries of what's really right for us. Is it good work? Yes. But is it the right one for us? And I feel like that's the clarity that comes from what you're talking about, that true understanding and not being afraid to stay committed to that.
Yes.
In this world, we have one of our core values is that kindness, humans matter more than money, than KPIs, and whatever. So that element of human kindness, and we're careful with what we do and the way we present. And we actually have had part ways with some clients who could not be kind in their approach. And for me, some people are like, "What? It's money in the door. Just deal with it." And I don't want to submit my team to an experience where they're being disrespected or taken advantage of. It doesn't feel good. Then they don't want to come to work. And so for me, it's not worth the dollars if there isn't alignment to who we are as a brand as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, it's there's so much to that. And I think that this idea, staying committed to it and also being open to understand that we are going to evolve. And I think it can sound like I'm saying you have to have everything figured out before you start. And that's not it either. It's that you have to have enough figured out to know where you're going. And then you learn along the way. Like we are humans and we evolve and grow and your brand is going to do the same thing. I always say that like our brands are their own living, breathing thing, right? Like we influence them and depending on if you're a personal business or if you're an agency or if you're a larger company, that's going to dictate like how much of you is in that. But they're their own living, breathing thing and they're going to grow and evolve and we have to be committed to the heart and open enough to be able to see the path and the clarity, like you said, being able to say, like, committed to what that brand's ideal is and making sure that, yeah, we're functioning in a way that wants us to grow. I truly believe that if we are investing our time and energy into work that is soul crushing or that isn't in alignment, it actually impacts the bottom line. You take those dollars now, but it's gonna impact the bottom line in the long run because if your team's not excited about it or if they're feeling down about it, if you're like, it's going to the momentum will stop in the moment. And so, I don't know, take the dollar for less dollars later. Is that the that's not the vibe.
100% not the vibe, not the vibe. I appreciate that. I one of the things that I love that you talk about in your own marketing is the role and the impact that your website has for your business. And I love the way you speak about it because often it's just this utilitarian thing. And my website currently we've wrecked what Rochelle built years ago. It's so bad. I wanna put a little pop-up that says under construction, but nonetheless, I feel like the way you speak about a website is just so enlightening. So I'd like to hear your take on what is the role of a website and what should it do and how should it impact a visitor?
Sure. Thank you. So I really see websites as our digital home. Like this is this space where we are welcoming people in, we're pouring them a cup of coffee, we're connecting with them. We are, I always say it's like this space for chat between friends that creates connection. I am a big like story person. I love storytelling. I love listening to stories. I think that through all of humanity, no matter how advanced technologically we become, if we can tell a good story, we can connect with each other. And so this space of a website it's not just about story because we also want clarity. We also want a customer journey to get them to the goal for them and for you. for them to have the service they need and for you to have the sale. But being able to have this space where you are in control of that story and you are creating that journey is something that is very unique to a website, because even on like social platforms where you're sharing in these bits and it's loud and there's a lot going on, like it's your website, your homepage is like your foyer. You're walking them in, creating that connection, and then you're guiding them where you want them to go in a very unique way. And when your website's done right, so this is like the emotional part of it, but then there's also a lot of strategy between like when your website's done right, it's your 24/7 salesperson. It's going to answer questions sometimes before they even have them. It's
Mm.
going to naturally take them from one space to another. And it's all very strategically laid out in that way so that it's not overwhelming, so that you're hitting on the things that they're asking about and needing and wanting in order to get to the end goal, which is the service that they are looking for and the sale. It's really like multifaceted in so many ways. And different websites are going to offer different things, but
Right.
generally, it's your home and you should be proud of it, and you should put a lot of care into the intentionality into it just like you would in your own home.
That's so good. I feel like over time, as we add and patchwork and new landing page and different whatever, that we lose that intentionality. So I love that concept of kind of this overarching experience. It's not just information, get me to the landing page, fill out this funnel, whatever. It's the experience that I want them to have. It's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it is. And just like on a note, we evolve. Our websites are going to evolve. Things are going to change every time you're adding something new to your site, which happens often, all the time, right? But you want to work backwards always. So in branding, in web design, you're saying, what is my ultimate goal for this person that comes here? And then you're putting the pieces in place. So if you change something, like I'm doing a design day on Thursday, we're adding a whole other set of services. So she wants the page added. And I say, okay, great, we're going to add the page. But we also need to talk about what this means for your homepage. What does it mean for your customer journey? How are we integrating this new service page into the overall picture? Because if you just plop that up, it's disconnected, right? And so we want to take them there. It doesn't serve anybody if the page is there, but nobody's seeing it, or they don't know how to get there. They don't understand why they'd get there. So we want to work backwards. We say, okay, we were going to add this new thing. What does that mean for this page previous? What does that mean for when they first get to the homepage? How does the messaging change? Does it change? Because now we have this new service that we're offering. Are we pivoting slightly? Like, that is totally fine. Welcomed, please. Like, everybody needs to be growing and evolving. But then we have to like take into account all the other pieces and how we can reintegrate everything along the way.
That's so good. All these ideas are swirling. We have a little branding project up our sleeve that we've been working on. And I'm getting all these ideas like, oh, yes. Oh, but can't wait. Can't wait. So it'll be in the new year. We're going to do it well and do it right. So when you see folks come to you for website stuff, and then I want to get into AI photography because it's so fascinating to me what you're doing there. What do you think are maybe the top 2 or 3 things that you see that just aren't working on the websites that maybe we should evaluate our sites for? Or is there? Like, what does the homepage do wrong?
Yeah, I think that it kind of is a little bit of what I was saying before, is just like not connecting the pieces. But then also a homepage, really its purpose is, I'm a foodie, but it's the sample platter. It's like the appetizers. We're getting an appetizer that's a sample of everything, and we're leading them down to what they want to discover more of.
Sure.
And so I think that really approaching that as like that's their first space where they're connecting in. So one, missing connection. I think some people miss that connection piece of, I mean, first of all, photography is a huge part of that. If you don't have photos of the experience that you're going to create, or yourself, or something that is emotionally connecting, because what do they always say? Like, a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Right.
Photos are a hugely important part. Stock photo's not bad. We can like, there's some great stock photo, but if it's not tying in the feeling or the what you're gonna deliver, which for some businesses is more difficult. It's more of a task, right? To find something that's going to visually resemble that. But so I think photos, like not putting enough focus on photos to create the connection, and then going too deep. So not letting it be a sample platter. So those would be the two things I would say, is like, you can see someone has an amazing they have amazing copy, but they're not connecting that in with the visual. And then maybe they're going too deep on something without allowing that space to be what it is. Because the sales pages, the about pages, the service pages, those are where people get to go deep. We're inundated with so much information. It's like, I want to choose. As a client that's coming there, I want to choose what I want to learn about. Let me figure this out a little bit too, right? There's like that give and take, us laying it out and then them having the sovereignty to choose where they want to go with us leading them without it being obvious.
Little cheese stick in your way too. Of course, I picked the cheese stick. That's my, queso is life for me.
I love it. Yeah.
Um, so you have been doing some really cool stuff with AI photography, which I love also. And you've done some for me, you've done some for a bunch of folks that I know, but even for our new branding project we're working on, you were able to create some brand aligned photos. And I think it's super cool. So I'd love to have you just talk about there's some people that are afraid or have had a really bad AI photo experience and there people are like, "No, well, there's no way we could use AI images for our business," but some of the stuff that you put out is you can't even tell. And for a human who absolutely despises photo shoots, it is such a gift to find something that isn't so obviously, 6 thumbs or
Right.
whatever, but what makes what have you discovered in that journey with AI that makes kind of what you're producing a little bit different? And little side note, she has an amazing course called AI and Aloha, right?
Yes.
That will walk you through how to do this yourself. But what have you discovered in this journey with AI?
Yeah. I think the first thing is that AI is there's two like it's kind of controversial, right? Like there's a lot going on with AI. There's still a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of things to consider. As much as I love it for the gifts that it's given me of freedom, again, I don't like selfies. I love photo shoots, but I don't, have the extra time or income all the time to be able to do them. And so I love that freedom. But I am not the AI educator that's like AI is the way. Like, I think that the way that I approach AI is that it fills a need that can put people in a place of empowerment where they usually would not have that. They usually would maybe, not, I for lack of better term, make the excuse or let it keep them small that they don't have these things, that they don't have the funds to be able to put into a custom brand photo shoot for their products or for their of themselves, or that they don't feel comfortable in front of a camera, or that they don't know. And these are real things. These are real. That's why I'm like, excuse isn't the right word. These are real reasons why we stop ourselves from growing. This is a tool that I've discovered that can allow those gaps to be filled and allow us to like fulfill that potential that we have in our business. So that's like my viewpoint on that in general. I think that just like everything else that I've said is like understanding the roots of where you're coming from, why you're creating this image, what you want to capture through that image is going to determine the success. When I was creating some of the stuff for your brand, one of the coolest things is that you can incorporate color into photos when you're talking about non-portraits. So you can do it with portraits too. But when I'm talking about like we created some stuff for your brand that was not portraits. It was just brand aligned, kind of like stock photography, but for your brand. So we can take colors in, we can take little elements, these little Easter eggs of things that we know because we're developing this brand and we're dropping them into these photos, but we're doing it in a way that is, yeah, it's so in line with the brand that it just works, right? We're not saying like, give me an office shot, like that would just be a replication of another stock photo. In that case, use the stock photo, right? But if you're going to get something that's super brand aligned, it's going to communicate way more than a picture of an office. It's going to communicate, little details that make this your brand recognizable. And that is just such a cool tool to me that you can do that. So I think that that's, yeah. huge benefit of being able to take these pieces of your brand and integrate them into your own custom photography. And also, AI is getting way, way better. So there's weird AI. There's so weird AI, and you do have to know what to look for, and you have to know which programs to use, and so on and so forth. But it's getting a lot better literally every day. So that gap is closing. When it comes to your portraits and your yeah, having photos of yourself, this has been a game changer for me because I am a homeschooling mom. I don't even get out of my PJs until we're done with math. Like, I don't always have the content, but I like showing up for my brand a certain way. And that way is polished. Like, that's my choice, that I like showing up for my brand and web design company. There are people that love showing up with selfies and that's how they connect. And there's people that love, like, it's not that there's one size fits all. For me, it's been a gift because that's how I like to show up. And that's what I want to be forward facing. And when it comes to the details of how to do the actual photos and make them look real, it gets like a little bit complicated to maybe talk on here. But I think just understanding what you're going for, right? Like, what emotion do I want to elicit with this? Who am I? How do I want that to come through in a photo?
It's amazing, and I love some of the shots you've done for me, but also because, like, I've written a book that's gonna come out any minute now, I promise. I promise it's going to release. The shot that I wanted for cover is not something I really had an opportunity to stage, if you will, and so one of the AI images that Rochelle created for me is going to be on the cover of my book, which I'm excited.
I didn't even know that. That's exciting.
Know that. Nobody knows that. Now they all do, but,
Yeah, everybody know.
um, no, it's exciting to me, and I think that, I have another colleague that I've heard speak on AI a lot of times, and she says, "AI is always an option, and it's occasionally helpful." That's kinda her little tagline for all of her AI talks, and I think it's brilliant because it's like 10,000 interns that can do a lot of work at once, but it should not be left alone or unsupervised, and that really is the key to AI, is that I don't think there's ever been an innovation in life that doesn't also bring some potential drawbacks, or
Yes.
you have to have clear guidelines, and, we work on that with our clients. We have an AI policy. How will we use it? How won't we use it? Our staff are very clear. We have a disclosure for our clients on how we use AI or won't use AI. And so it doesn't have to be this weird, sneaky thing. I think it's part of where we're going. And to be able to do a competitive assessment or something and drop the names of all the competitors in your market and say, create a chart for me of all the pluses and minuses, the complaints or the praises online. It's pretty amazing. It saves a lot of time, but I
Yes.
think I love seeing the way that the graphics of it is also improving, because it has come a long way, even in just 2 or 3 months late.
Yeah. It's literally there was, like, a huge image creation drop, like, a week and a half ago, and then about, like, 4 days ago, another one, and it was like it blew the other one out of the water. So, it's definitely the game's changing fast,
Yeah.
and to your point, and to everything that you do, it's like in everything else that you do. You have to approach it with integrity, you have to approach it with intentionality, and understanding how to use these tools, because I think this is a more obvious case of there being a potential downside. Like, there are people that are going to use these tools in a way that is not in alignment with the greatest good for themselves and everything else. And so I have a whole ethics section in my course, and it's like, really want to be approaching these tools the way that we approach everything else in our business.
Right.
And that's like, does this align? Does this make sense? Is it going to add value? How can I use this with intentionality?
That's so good. I love that because, I mean, you can even hire a coach or a vendor or somebody that isn't going to align with the same approach of your business. So, Rochelle, thank you for your time here. I'm so
Great.
grateful for you to be here. And if people wanted to find you, where should they look?
Of course, I'm gonna lead to my website, but, beachykeencreative.com,
Nice.
and, I'm terrible at social media, although working on getting better, but I also have Instagram is where I've been posting recently, but my website's definitely my little home, and I'd love to invite you there, so
Nice. That's great. And we'll put the links in the show notes too to her templates, her resources, her courses, and her website. So,
Oh, thank you.
Rochelle, it's always such a gift to spend time with you, and I'm grateful for you sharing your wisdom and your genius with our audience as well.
Oh, thank you. I agree. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you, and thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. Any chance I get to share a cup with you, I will. I will.
I love it.
Cheers.
Cheers.